So, and we have Chris Hatch and Michael Conn, both from Lord High School. They're going to be, I'm sorry? And Robert Farrell, I'm sorry. Robert Farrell High School and Lord High School. Michael's the principal for both Lord High School and Robert Farrell High School. And Chris is with Robert Farrell High School. We're going to be talking about the Rachel server. The presentation that we have here, there's a lot of extra slides that you don't really, we're not going to spend a lot of time on. We're going to go through a little bit about the content and how it's accessed. And Michael and Chris are going to talk a little bit about that. And you're going to get a chance to kind of experience it firsthand. You might have seen in the wireless settings, you've got several Rachel Googles to log into and whatnot. So we're going to get you the details on how to connect up there. So who gets to go first? You want me? I'll take us through the first part of the slides. The Rachel server stands for Rural Access Community Hotspot for Education and Learning. That's what Rachel stands for. So let's see. Like I said, this is a presentation that Frank put together when he took back east. And so there's a lot of extra content in here that's good content. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. It's all available for download on the Rachel server. You'll be able to download all of these handouts from the Rachel server directly. So we're going to move into the actual the Rachel server itself. So just want to touch bases on a website here. This is one of Tracy's favorites. This is a digital citizenship website to teach kids proper digital citizenship at different grade levels. So that's a good resource to have in the presentation here. Let's see. Let's keep going here. I think Frank had a couple things he was going to stay. He's doing the important stuff now, bringing back the pizza. So we'll maybe back up here a little bit. So this is the Rachel server. This is what it looks like. It is a content access point that has, there's one right here. It's like a wireless access point, and the reason they call it a content access point is because it also has a 0.5 terabyte hard drive, a 2.5 inch 0.5 terabyte hard drive built into it. It uses it has an 8 gigabyte memory stick that is the firmware of the Rachel server, of the Intel CAP server, and it's an amazing tool. The operating system is Linux. It's a Linux server operating system, version 14.4, long-term support, or LTS. And between the Rachel server, or the operating system, and the content that's on it, it's about 260 gigabytes of content preloaded on it. The content's loaded by World Possible. Intel provides the hardware. World Possible, which is a nonprofit, gets permission from different website providers to scrub their sites, which is pull their data off there with permission, and then modularize it so that they can put it into the Rachel server and then make it accessible in an offline setting. And their principal market is third world countries where the internet's not available at all. So we got wind of it. Frank and I and Tracy, we talked about it and thought it was an amazing tool. And so we just kind of dove in feet first. And then I know Michael and Chris both have some experience in using the Rachel server. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about it yet?
So for us, the internet poses a variety of different challenges on a day-to-day operation with some of our students. And so one of the things that was coming up is we constantly had students who were using the internet and accessing things, and trying to keep up with their actual skills can sometimes be difficult because they're pretty skilled when it comes to technology. So as we had laptops in classrooms and connected to internet, monitoring became very difficult. So you have a teacher who's walking around constantly making sure the students are engaged, and that monitoring system that we had talked about with the SoftLink and the LAN school presents challenges for for a teacher who needs to be up and moving around the classroom. So the idea was, is it possible for us to have a server that is actually not connected at all to the internet, but yet students could access through a Bluetooth link? So as we were talking, Frank had started out with a pretty small Rachel type server, which was plugged into the wall. Yeah, the Rachel Pi, I think, is what it was called. And then I received a phone call one day from Frank saying, "Hey, I got this great this great device that we'd like to pilot and we'd like to try it. And so for us, I had just come off of taking pretty much all the computers and the laptops out of the classrooms because of constant filtering issues and kids accessing content and using things that they shouldn't. So as we got it, I approached Mr. Hatch and said, "Hey, this is an opportunity we may have to see whether or not how this thing operates." And what it is designed for the teacher to be able to upload content on it, and then the students can connect to it with all the lessons, with the things that he wants them to see, so they can still work on their digital literacy skills, still using the technology, but also in a safe way that prevents them from and putting potential roadblocks in front of them, because some of our guys, that's a skill, is something they're still developing, that impulsiveness and we don't want to put roadblocks in front of guys who are currently struggling with that skill. So as I approached Hatch, he said, "You know what, I'll give it a try." It requires, I will say that it's very important that you have a staff person who is pretty tech savvy. And what was amazing is when I handed it to Hatch, he said, "Well, it doesn't take a tech savvy person to operate this." Which was great. To me, it looked pretty foreign. But as Hatch then developed a class where we had students on laptops, the content was on that, we started to see students engaging more than they were engaging before. So you can talk a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit. I'll segue to the ease of use. I know they're putting together some videos, teach people how to use it. My cheers goes out to the Google and Worldwide folks, because I was able to upload content on it and design lessons using the 2 pages of the Quick Startup Guide. So it took me about 15 minutes to figure out how to get my first stuff uploaded onto the server. From a classroom standpoint, I'm less concerned about the security. Sorry, OIA staff. My concern was with my students needing 21st century literacy and research skills using a textbook from the 19th century. Like here today, if I said something really interesting and somebody wanted to check on it, no one would be going into the other part of the library and looking up books. Everyone would pull out their technology device and they would look it up online. That's the future of research. From a social studies or history teacher, those are the skills I need to give my students or teach my students in order for them to be successful, whether it's out in the real world or hopefully going on to college or other higher learning. So the idea of to put together lessons that still got the need to know content together in a digital or more real format, but yet could control how far they could go, or could make sure that at least they were reliable information sites. And so I put together some lessons, generally would try and put together some text. I'd pull out Wikipedia pages, things like that, but also put in several video sections so they could learn in multiple formats, and basically would give them a piece of paper that said, these are the 8 or 10 things you need to know. And there's the folder you can find it in. I don't care what media format you use to find it, but you have to find it, you have to put it pen to paper and demonstrate it that way. And that worked. And what I found in a couple different interesting things was, the first thing is once they're on a computer, they're much more interested. They put on the headphones, they're now in their world, they're not distracted by the person next to them. And what I'd found in a class I'd used teaching some music was that if I played the music out loud, kids succumbed to the peer pressure and told me how bad it sucked. When they could listen to it and they could choose, suddenly they were interested in stuff, and all of a sudden the reverb around the room, instead of the pressure being negative, the pressure got to be, hey, check this one out, check this out. And it created a positive climate, and all of that just, the behavior management in the classroom went down greatly from there. So I found it to be pretty successful that way.
So then we have now used them as the content that you're probably seeing if you're logged into it, if you can see it, is that we've now moved to using the Chromebooks and putting those Chromebooks out at our 2 of our cottages at McLaren. And we have anywhere between 5 to 8 Chromebooks on the cottage, and the guys have access to this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The major thing we find the guys accessing is the law library that was not necessarily always as accessible as they would need it to be. And so that's a big piece of this, is being able to get on there and research and look up the law stuff that's that's on there. In addition to just looking up some of the TED Talks, and the guys actually find it quite interesting. So it makes time on the cottage some activities that maybe they didn't have access to before. So we have two cottages piloting that right now. In addition to our more secure unit, at McLaren also has access. We have a Rachel out there that those guys can access as well. So we're currently in the piloting stage, and one of the great things about OIA and the staff that work there is I think we all understand that there will be things that come up and things will happen with students using internet and technology like this. And it's kind of agreed upon that, hey, we're going to run into these things and we'll address these challenges as they come up individually by student, not as a global, we're going to go ahead and just not try this anymore. There's a willingness to try things and also to fail and try again. So it's made the partnership of trying to work with these things excellent. So much appreciated.
Rachel stands for? It stands for Remote Area Community Hotspot for Education and Learning. And so is anybody not able to connect to the Rachel server? A show of hands. Anybody not able to connect? They tried and they weren't able to make it? Okay, so if you connected to the Rachel server, this is what it looks like. And as you can see when you scroll down, there's all kinds of content in the Rachel server. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll to the top of it. And right here where it says local content is where you're going to find all the downloads you need for today's training. So you click on the local content. It's going to open up the featured lessons. Featured lessons, there we go. And so for session 1, you just click on this here, and all the downloads for the session 1 are all in there, including the presentation. You can just download those to your local device. If you go back to the homepage, and session 2, that's this presentation here, right here. So anything that has any handouts, there's a total of 7 sessions. So we have handouts for sessions 1, 2, 4, and 6. So 6 is the one that everybody's going to be most interested in, which is the college content Pell Grant information. There's about 23 handouts on that particular page right there. So just want to make sure you guys have access to this. Alternately, if you don't get it from the Rachel server here today, it is available as of 10 o'clock this morning on the NORSC website, which is northwestopenresources.org. And there should be some content available there for download based on each of the sessions as well. So the top 2 modules here, I just want to illustrate a little bit what the capabilities are. The top 2 modules here are OIA specific. We built these modules and had them, we uploaded them ourselves is what it boils down to. So in between every module, it has a gray line between them. So those were 2 modules that we created. We also have had the ability to index the content. So for instance, on the Oregon Law Library here, if I wanted to search for something, let me put my hand down because I can't type with one hand. So I just searched for registration, and this searched all the documents that have been indexed in the Law Library module. And so these are some of the options that came up that were populated here. So the modules that have searches are specific to the module. It would take forever to index the whole drive, especially with the content changing and whatnot. So what World Possible is elected to do is to set up the indexing by each module only. So if you click on Wikipedia, it's full of all kinds of content. I got to tell you a little bit of a story. We had the full version of Wikipedia on the first set of Rachel servers that we had out, and our research and development team, otherwise known as, where's Danessa? Is she in the room? She's not in the room, is she? Camp Tillamook, found some porn inside of in less than 24 hours. It was about 4 or 5 hours that they found in the full version of Wikipedia, which is a snapshot of every website that's ever on the internet. And so because it was the full version, they focused right in on that. So we removed that content and replaced it with the Wikipedia for Schools, which is more appropriate content for the students. But it's part of the R&D piece that we have to go through. If there's going to be a vulnerability, our youth will definitely help point it out to us. That's their job, and our job is to make sure that we correct it when we find that. So, little story. That's a freebie. Any questions on the Rachel server? Yes, ma'am. So what I suggest along those lines, there's 2 ways to deploy the Rachel server. You can deploy it via wirelessly, which is what we're doing here today, or you can deploy it. Here's the Rachel server. On the bottom is a RJ45 connection with a Cat5 cable connection. You can plug that into your school network, and through your IT professionals have one of them dedicated so that anybody that's plugged in, wired to your school, would have access to it. So then you as a teacher can preview what they're going to be researching. Now, I understand Bernie Sanders' Wikipedia was probably scrubbed.
That's what I ran into the first time, because when I saw this, I thought, that's great. They can research Wikipedia. They can write that stuff. They can research. And I found the first thing, I'm like, really? There isn't a page on this. It takes a little bit more time, but I found it wasn't any more prep time than I put in for another lesson once I learned how to do it, which is if I have a class and I have maybe 4 or 5 research subjects, what I did quick then was pull off some quick content, whether it was a PDF page of Wikipedia or have them create the book. And then, so I do the real page on Bernie Sanders. I'd also download his web page and I could put that in there. And then I'd have a folder in there, not on this screen, but on the previous screen where you guys are loading up the presentation stuff. I'd have a Bernie Sanders folder. And inside that folder, I might have some speeches that I took off YouTube and downloaded quick and put in the folder, his web page, his Wikipedia page. And some of those contents, it took me 15 or 20 minutes of my research time to make sure that I had good content for the students to go in. But that isn't much more time than I'd take to prep about anything else. So it was a little bit more prep time. But once I learned that as a way of using it, rather than the more traditional what Rachel set it up for, that opened up the possibilities for me. So they could also learn about Bernie Sanders, not just on the Wikipedia page, but also his website, or maybe certain policies you wanted them to look up. I can put those pages on there. And then, like I said, speeches, videos for the multimedia formats, and do that. And I was able to, I had them researching progressive era leaders. And so I had about 8 different people. And that's what I did. And I just created 8 folders for those and said, okay, you choose which of the 8 you want, but each one had that content in there. And so that was my way around that. Like I said, it's a little more prep, but once I learned how to do it, it didn't take me very long to do it. So it's not a perfect answer, but it is flexible in that piece.
The other thing is with some of the curriculums that you can buy, it comes with the CDs. So when we purchased for our automotive program, it came with the actual textbook on a CD. So then I just took what was on the CD and just loaded it onto the actual Rachel server. So that way our guys who are in the automotive program can see the same PowerPoints the teacher's going through with the ability to take notes right off of it. So if you have the actual content, it's pretty easy just to drag it over into the local content area, which is part of this, which is the teacher side of it, the actual instructional side of the Rachel server, where they can access anything that you post up there. And then you can also keep hidden what you want to do as the instructor in terms of PowerPoints and things like that they may not have access to. So it serves kind of a dual purpose for that.
One of the things that we came up with when Intel came to Camp Tillamook and Tillamook YCF, as well as Jeremy Schwartz from World Possible, and met with us. Michael was there. I think Dagny was there, Frank, Tracy, and I had the OY Geek Squad there as well, which is 5 students that are incarcerated that basically are my assistant administrators for repurposing computers and doing anything that we need to be doing IT-wise, for the youth network is what it boils down to. And so the discussion came around some instruction for how to use a content hub more effectively. So what they've done is they put together a video. I'll show you just a little bit of it here. I think the audio works, so we'll see here.
Hello and welcome to the homepage of the Rachel server. This video is a step-by-step guide to access and use the local content feature of the Rachel server. The local content feature allows you to upload files and videos, store them, and create your own lessons for students through the Rachel server. To begin, go to the local content button. This takes you to the Content Hub, which is the main platform for managing all your files and lessons. First, we'll log in. Speak with your system's administrator to find your username and password. In this example, it'll be teacher. Here's the Content Hub, and we can start with the home page. From the home page, we can see featured lessons.
That's a little teaser. The whole video is about 9 minutes long, but this is what the OI Geek Squad has done in preparation for trying to get training out there for the teachers on how to use the Content Hub more effectively and efficiently. You can also set up categories. You can also assign key tags to different assignments and roles and so on and so forth, so that as you get dozens or hundreds of lessons or documents in there, you can sort through those fairly easily and be able to utilize them in your lesson planning. So as I mentioned earlier, this presentation is available on session 2 on the Rachel server if you want to download it for its entirety. Frank, do you want to talk a little bit more about it here?
I just want to thank our friends up here for actually pioneering a lot of this and creating an environment. And I don't know if Gary mentioned this to you. I was enjoying my pizza. But the part about the young people at the Tillamook facility being part of the Rachel server training, and Michael Conn had mentioned that wouldn't it be great to have an instruction so when somebody gets a Rachel server, there's a way that everyone can learn. And the kids just jumped out of their chairs that we can do that. And it was amazing because we talked with the young people about, sitting down with the engineers and to see students be part of cutting edge development. And this is a beta product. Oh, there's Gary's. Gary's doing advertisement. So these young lads, they actually sat down and, create solutions for what we're doing in education. I mean, they are literally helping us promote the, shall we say, the student information system. So I just kudos to Gary and those young men there. So Intel has informed me that they have a new Rachel server that they're putting together. It's going to be a little bit more robust. There's all these, future possibilities of it being interactive and able to store. And, there was even discussion about planning. It could handle an internal email system. And so it creates that future state where the young people can safely use these skills before they go out into the community. And, that's part of what we're all doing, is to give them the skills and abilities to actually be successful. And as we all know, education and technology is probably a backbone for that. So that's new and on horizon. Again, one of the things I just want to throw out there is our young people at all of our facilities, we try to get learning wherever it can happen with them, whether it's within the greenhouse, with the Moody program or IT programs or virtual welding, is just the need to let them experience what they need to, when they need to, and them having a selection of where they want to go with their education, which is very important. So we have visits from, I just want to have recognition for our director, Fairbours, you want to